Hi everybody, this is day 5, post-op total hysterectomy, and I'm doing a whole lot better today. I've seen another YouTube video where I have to figure out which one I saw. I'll probably put it in the description below to refer to hers, but she gave a warning about one of the days where you feel spectacular and so you overdo it and get yourself into trouble by the following day. So I'm feeling great, and that's wonderful. I'm just going to make sure that I don't overdo it today and kind of just keep it chill and just relax even still. I'm doing a little bit of walking. I'm doing my incentive spirometry, which is that little machine that you suck in on, and it raises the little lever. I'll probably do like a quick little show on how I do that after a while, but that to me is super key and helps with deep breathing. But I just wanted to go over real quick some tips that I think would have helped me to know ahead of time before I went into the surgery. The first thing I would say is that I was in so much pain before the surgery that I kept telling myself after the surgery, I'm going to be so much better, I'm going to feel spectacular, you know, this is going to be wonderful. And while that is true, in the long run, in the short run, it will be so much worse. And I think if I had really kind of made my expectations a little bit more realistic, I think I would have been better prepared for what I'm experiencing. So I'd say at first, when the surgery first happens, it's going to be worse, and you'll kind of almost wonder why you did this. But just remember that the pain does eventually go away and it does heal, whereas if you just avoid the surgery, that pain just doesn't end, it just continues to worsen. So just remembering that helps out a whole lot. Some of the things that I kind of came across was that after the surgery you will still have some bleeding, so keep some pads. The bleeding shouldn't be that long, more than a couple of weeks, and I'd really be concerned. I would just ask your surgeon about how long would they expect you to be bleeding post-surgically, so that way you kind of have a time frame for if something's starting to kind of go wrong. Then you would know, okay, it's been a week and a half and I'm still bleeding, something's wrong. And a small package of pads worked for me. Aside from the bleeding, I also use them to cover over my incision whenever I start to feel a little rubbing across it, whether it's from my clothes or my bathrobes or something like that. And that kind of helps to keep that irritation away from the incision, because if your incision starts getting irritated, that's really bad, kind of a bad sign for infection starting up later, or at least it is for me. So I keep that irritation down. Post-surgically, I was swollen from the belly. Everything between the belly and knees is swollen, period. So areas that don't normally touch in clothing, all of a sudden are touching. Even in baggy clothes or just a dress or just a bathrobe. So those pads really helped out a lot to keep that irritation down. The other thing I also love that I have is I got a little condiment bottle, and it's the kind that you get in like Dollar Tree or even Walmart or H-E-B, that you put your ketchup in and you just kind of squeeze. But I bought that. It was like $4, like 50 cents a piece, and that condiment bottle has really helped and really saved me as far as being able to kind of rinse my perineum. Granted, this is not an area where the incisions are, but it just kind of helps to refresh and feel a little bit better, makes you feel a little bit better. The other thing is witch hazel and cosmetic pads, or those little poofs that you get that you usually use. They're like circular pads, you usually use them on your face. They're in a cosmetic aisle in Walmart. And I use that with the witch hazel and just kind of wipe and use that as like a little wipey after toileting. I don't leave it on my body, but I just wipe afterwards, and it kind of gives some relief. You can use Tux pads, but if you read the ingredients on Tux, you'll find it's witch hazel. Like I said, after the surgery, everything from the belly to the knees is swollen and sore. And so even though they didn't operate on the perineum, I still had some swelling there. And that went down by, the next day or two after using my witch hazel. And just kind of going across the perineum with that. But of course, speak with your doctor, because, you may have some other procedure done that's not like mine, to where you can't use that. The other thing is a must-have is some kind of abdominal binder or wrap, or sometimes I'm using a modified back brace just to kind of hold the belly in. Your core is completely shot once they remove that uterus. I don't know, I don't have the stomach to watch the actual hysterectomy procedure on any of these YouTube channels. But I know they have to cut through certain muscles and tissues and layer of tissue that gives you that abdominal core strength, as well as some back support. Excuse me. So just forget about your core at all. It is just shot. What I do is I use my little modified back brace. It's kind of like an abdominal binder to hold everything kind of in and together. Not super tight, but just firm to where it feels comfortable. And as my comfort level improves, I can bring it in slowly. Every day I bring it in a little, just a little bit, to increase a little bit more tightness and get a little bit more firm. But at the same time, I don't want my core deciding that it never has to repair because I'm doing all the work for it. So what I do is I do little exercises as far as like holding in my stomach. I try for a count of 5, but some days I can't get up to a count of 5. I may be able to only get up to a count of 2 or 3, and that's fine. I'll just do up to where I can get, and then kind of rest, take a break, and a few minutes later I'll hold it again, and I'll try that about 5 times or so, whether it's within an hour or within 2 hours, whatever I feel up to, and kind of spread it out. And that way I can slowly start to build that core, and also above the incisions where my stomach is kind of swollen. Sometimes I'll just kind of do like a little gentle massage. Like I said, this is stuff I do, and your physician may say, no, that's not the right way to do it. But it works for me, and it helps me. And if I can kind of roll my stomach a little bit and kind of move or stretch, not really stretch the incisions, but kind of create some movement there. It helps me not to be so stiff and so tightened around that incision line. And it's helped, actually my stomach was like super hard and swollen and super round right after the surgery. And now it's softened and it's not so tender, and I can actually touch and press into my stomach without having a whole lot of pain. Speaking of pain, there's certain bodily functions that used to be no problem before that you took for granted that will be a problem afterwards, and those are like coughing, sneezing, burping, passing gas, God forbid hiccups. I got hiccups like day 2, I think, post-op, and that was the worst thing ever. It hurt so bad it was not funny. For hiccups, is even though burping hurts probably just as bad, the sooner you can burp, a lot of times it stops those hiccups. So I had to get something to drink to help me to burp, and that stopped the hiccups. And it's kind of the lesser of two evils, or it was for me, as far as getting that pain to kind of go away. In line with that kind of pain is also get your small pillow, one of those with a little roll, where it's kind of just a little circular roll, or small pillow that you can roll. I found that the full-size pillows and the pillows that they have at the hospital for me were really ineffective as far as like bracing my stomach before moving, coughing, sneezing, you know, any of those other bodily functions. And I also took like a little small pillow roll with me when I had to walk the halls. and I just held that against my stomach while whoever was helping me pulled the IV pole. And I found that that helped me out a whole lot, just having that something else to kind of hold on to and to press it against my stomach and press it against the areas that were hurting while I was walking. I still have not mastered coughing at all. Day 5, and I still cannot cough. I do my incentive spirometry, and I do my deep breathing, but I've figured out a way to kind of try to help move some of the congestion in my chest little bits at a time, but the coughing is still extremely painful, so I can't say I've mastered that just yet, and I don't know when that'll come, but right now it's not at all. The difficulty passing gas, one thing that I did to help with that is to sit on a toilet, because first of all, to me it seems like now that they've rearranged everything, you have to find your sphincter all over again. Trust me, you don't know where it is anymore. And actually sitting on the toilet helps you kind of feel what muscles you need to relax in order to allow that to happen. And the key was for me, when I switched my brain from thinking I have to push to what do I relax. There shouldn't be any pushing. There's a little muscular area where when you find it and you're able to relax that, everything kind of just goes through so much better. I still have not even had a bowel movement yet. And of course, with any of these abdominal surgeries, whenever they're in there messing around, that is the biggest challenge ever. But I am taking my Colace twice a day. I'm taking Miralax, and I'm taking Metamucil, and hoping that all that will kind of help whenever I come across that situation. And so that's pretty much it for my tips for right now. If I think of anything else, of course I'll do, another video on my progress and how things are going. Right now my blood sugars are still up and down. Oh, the other thing I would say too, whatever hospital you're going to, try to find out what their policy is if you're type 1 diabetic like myself, on you administering your own insulin. The hospital I was in, they were very nervous, and most hospitals always are, because insulin is such a potent drug, and you can, basically almost kill yourself with it, because your appetite is way different. Nausea, vomiting. If you start vomiting, more than twice, and you can't keep anything down, that's a medical emergency. Go to the emergency room if you're home. Because with our insulin, that's especially on a pump that's continuing to be pumped in, if you don't know how to titrate it for the situation you're in, you can get yourself in trouble real quick. But the hospital that I had was wonderful. They did send in internal medicine doctors. I had like a different one every day that came in and kept quizzing me on the pump. And that was kind of helpful to me, and it also reassured them that I knew how to manage my pump and my insulin with this surgery. But just keep in mind that your body changes, and there's different ways of pumping that you haven't done before. One of the things that I did yesterday, which I had to try after having a crisis early in the morning, was to give myself a bolus of insulin after I ate. Instead, most of the times you're taught to give that bolus 10 minutes before eating. But my problem is that I'd bolus before and then lose my appetite, and then I can't eat what I just bolused in, and that can create a severe crisis. So I did it yesterday, and yes, my blood sugar did go up, but it went up to about 160, 170 and leveled off. I'd say less than 200, and I'm still in good shape. And so after I gave it about 2 hours, let it, kind of peak. That was for what I ate, and what I ate was very low carb anyway. And then I just gave myself a little bolus, just a correction bolus after that, and that leveled it back off and brought it back down where it needed to be. So yeah, I hope these tips help, and talk to you later.